Are you trying to lose fat? I mean, honestly, who isn't trying to lose fat? I think if you ask pretty much anyone, they would like to lose some fat. But there's one thing you probably haven't thought of. Have you ever thought about sleeping more to help you lose fat? You might think it's better to sleep less because the more time that you're awake, the more time that you're burning calories, and the more time you can go work out or do something else. But it turns out if you're sleeping too little, that could be the reason that you're struggling losing weight, or you're just finding yourself gaining weight in the first place. So there's a few studies I wanted to talk about that are pretty interesting. The first is this systematic review, and it was looking at this obesity epidemic and how the numbers have just been rising. And it was comparing that with chronic sleep deprivation. So this review was looking at a lot of different literature, and this literature was specifically talking about how chronic sleep deprivation and obesity and weight gain were related. Now, the big thing here is they were looking at this short sleep duration, and they were seeing if this is an independent risk factor for obesity or weight gain. Now, what does that mean? If something is an independent risk factor, that means that you're basically getting rid of all other variables. Now, this is really hard to do with a lot of studies because a lot of studies have this correlational data. Like, for example, you can say that I am generally unhealthy, and because I'm unhealthy, it's really hard for me to go to sleep properly, and I just don't get that much sleep. And I also am obese or I'm overweight. Now, if you look at that, you're probably thinking, well, they're unhealthy, so obviously they're overweight. And the fact that they just can't sleep is just a third variable. Now, that's what this study was addressing. It was trying to see if chronic sleep deprivation or this short sleep duration was an independent risk factor for obesity or weight gain. So what did they find? Well, they looked at 36 different publications, and consistently they found that sleeping too little was associated with either current obesity or getting obesity in the future. So this can help explain this rise in obesity that's been going on. And according to the National Sleep Foundation, back in 1998, only 35% of Americans were sleeping 8 hours a night. And if you fast forward to 2005, even less than that, only 26% of Americans were sleeping 8 hours a night. And if you look at the obesity numbers from this time period, you'll see that those obesity numbers were skyrocketing. So why is this the case? Why is it the case that if you sleep too little, then your risk for obesity will go up so much? Well, the issue really happens when it's chronic sleep deprivation. So not just one night of not sleeping so much. If this is happening for a long period of time and you're consistently not getting enough sleep. If you have this chronic sleep deprivation, over time your body's gonna get more and more fatigued. So one thing that's gonna do is it's gonna make it really hard for you to go work out. It's gonna make it really hard to do any physical exercise because you're just gonna be too tired. But also this sleep deprivation could be affecting your hormones. So there was another study and it was looking at your leptin and your ghrelin levels. So your leptin is really important for controlling your appetite. And if your leptin is high, that's basically telling you that you're full. And your ghrelin is doing the exact opposite. If your ghrelin is high, it's telling you that you're hungry. So obviously, if you have more ghrelin, you're gonna be more hungry and you're gonna be more likely to eat more and add on more calories. So you might be wondering like, okay, well, at least I'm awake a little bit longer. I'm gonna be expending more energy then, so I can afford to eat those extra calories, right? Well, there was another study looking at just that. So this study was looking at short sleep duration and comparing it with people's energy consumption and how much energy they're actually releasing in a day. So how did this study work? Well, they took 15 men and 15 women. They were all in the age range of 30 to 49 years old, and they all had a BMI of between 22 and 26. So they were all about either average or slightly overweight BMI. So normally these people slept between 7 to 9 hours a night. But what they did was they split these people into two different groups. And one group slept 4 hours a night, the other group slept 9 hours a night. And the study only went on for 5 nights. What they found is after just 5 nights, the participants who slept less ate more food, but not just any food. They ate more fatty foods, specifically saturated fats. And also, this is my favorite part, they were looking at the energy expenditure of both of these groups, and they found that the energy expenditure did not change, whether you slept 4 hours or whether you slept 9 hours. So not only was that first group eating more food, they were also not expending any more energy. Now, the last study I want to talk about is a meta-analysis of different randomized control trials. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry. Basically, this is like the highest level of evidence you can get. And this study was looking at sleep restriction and how it affects metabolism on healthy adults. And they found that if you cut out sleep, you tend to have more hunger, you eat more calories, and you end up gaining more weight. But also a big one here that we haven't mentioned is they had less insulin sensitivity. Now, insulin is this very important hormone, and it's released every time we eat. Now, basically, the function of insulin is to control our blood sugar levels, but it also helps regulate our metabolism. Now, a big reason a lot of people have either pre-diabetes or are actually diabetic is because of insulin resistance. What happens is your insulin is high for such a long period of time that your body just does not react to insulin as well. So the only way it can react is by releasing more insulin. And this can cause major problems with our body, and this can throw off our blood sugar levels, and this is what leads to diabetes. And this is probably the most interesting thing I found out of all the studies, that sleeping more can help control your insulin sensitivity. If you want to learn more about insulin and how it functions in our body and how people can start controlling their insulin levels, I'm putting a link in the description below to some other videos, so make sure you check those out. I hope you guys liked that video, and I hope if you're not sleeping enough that you can start getting more sleep now. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below. I will see you in the next video.